is Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I know I said I wasn't going to be doing a ton of vlogs this year, but I just have been hearing a ton about a certain romantasy book and how it went from being kind of okay to being not great. I received my copy from Libby, and I was like, I could do a review, but my reviews tend to lean on the spoiler-free end of most spectrums, and I like me talking about sequels to be very spoiler-filled. So I was like, you know what? We'll do a vlog. It's been a while, so we will do a vlog. And that book that I'll be reading is the sequel to the critically acclaimed, or I guess the acclaimed, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'll be reading Iron Flame in this one. Now, I'm gonna say this. I probably will not be continuing on with the series. I have just heard a lot of things about Iron Flame that makes me want to be really concerned. So in a case, this might be some hate reading, but I also think that sometimes reading books that may be lacking in certain aspects, primarily the world building, is a good exercise for writers to learn how to not do that. But with that being said, I am fully well aware of the statements that Rebecca Yarros has put out in regards to what is going on in Israel and how people have been requesting for her books not to be translated in Hebrew by an Israeli company, and she equated that to something close to banning books, which, as we know, is not the case. No, banning books comes from a systematic power who doesn't wish people to learn about other lifestyles or learn about certain topics, things, or attitudes, I should say. Sure. That might make the government angry. Asking an author, hey, please be more conscious of where your money goes to get translations. Like, they're not asking you to not translate it in Hebrew, they're asking you to translate it in Hebrew using a very oppressive, using a company that is part of an oppressive force. But I will just leave it at that. In no way do I condone that behavior. I am really reading this from a standpoint of learning, like from an analytical standpoint, what to do in cases of books like these, how you can avoid your own book like this in a scenario. How much strength do editors truly even have in this day and age? If you would like to donate to the efforts in Palestine right now or want to learn more about it, I will try to leave some links down below just in case. I don't know if that'll get blocked or not. I was gonna start reading the book today. I'll try to still read it. I left my Kindle at my work, so I don't know. I don't know if I'll start it today. I'll try. I kind of want to get to about 50% of this arc that I'm reading that came out in March. It's now April. I have 2 arcs I have to catch up on, but my priority will be shifting once I reach 50% of this book that I'm currently reading. So I'll keep you guys updated probably tomorrow once I have started the book. It's 640 pages. I'm just gonna let that settle in your brains. 640 pages. 640 pages. So I'll try to breeze through it if I can. It is my library copy, so I'm not entirely sure if that is entirely possible for me to do. So let me just talk about my recollection of Fourth Wing, and then you'll cut to tomorrow. I'll probably talk about the synopsis in depth. So Fourth Wing, for me, I found it to be a really fun, kind of easy to read book. I thought there were a lot, I'll leave my review linked down below so you can go ahead and check out and what my full thoughts were. I think I did have some spoilers in there, but if you're here, you probably read the sequel by now. I enjoyed it. I thought the characters were pretty compelling to me. It's a very quick and easy read, very easy for me to just turn my brain off and just read it, which is why I gave it a 4. My biggest glaring problem with it was the lack of world building. I feel like if you are going to write a fantasy novel, romantasy or not, you have to have some form of world building to be able to build off of that, especially as conflicts arise and we get to see the characters undergo certain challenges. So I have heard a lot of things I have seen my friend Rachel from Rachel Reads talk about it. She has a full like 2-hour video on just the first 22 chapters of this book. And a lot of my friends, I had a friend DNF in the first 3%, and then my friend Andrew won't even tell me because she doesn't want to give me any, she doesn't want to change, like, influence my opinion of the novel. But it seems like to me, first book lacked a lot of world building. We didn't get to see a lot of answers to things. Second book seems to have done too much world building, but not done well. There's too much world building now, but it's not fleshed out enough for you to be able to, one, suspend your disbelief or even understand the world building. So that's kind of the focus of this video, this vlog, and this very long intro, is that I'm going to be really focusing and honing in on the technical aspects of this book, which is primarily the world building, which is my biggest concern, but I have heard some things in regards to the characters, so we'll see. But I'm gonna go because I have to finish cooking dinner. It's like 8:15. I haven't had dinner yet. I have the apartment to myself, so. Alrighty. It is now Tuesday, and as I promised, I have read a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean like 2%. But I will explain in more depth about the book, the previous book, and so far my observations with it. Can you pass me my Kindle, babe? Thank you. Alright. So, Fourth Wing is about Violet, who is, like, she has, like, a disability where her bones are very fragile and she breaks. Like, they break upon impact. Like, you could probably flick her really hard and you'll, like, fracture a bone. Now, she has wanted nothing more than to be a scribe in the military, because this place is a weird militaristic scenario. However, her mother does not want her to and forces her to become part of the Writers' Quadrant, which is like part of this huge militaristic college, which I still don't know why they're like training people to be in the military. They're saying there's a war, but that doesn't feel like there's enough urgency for a war. Fast forward to the second book, Iron Flame. This follows us directly after the events of the first book, where Liam has died because someone killed his dragon, and you can't, Ryder cannot live without the dragon. She was almost poisoned, and now she's found out that her brother, Brennan, who she thought she has been dead for 6 years, I want to say, maybe less, is now alive. And they're meeting with people, and I just have, this doesn't even mean like world building scenarios, just some like writer parts. I'll throw up the bits that I have issues with here. But the first part is we see Xaden. We see Xaden after like what has been 3 days, and Violet, like, listen. If the love of my life betrayed me and, was supposed to be like this weird, dark, and mysterious, and scarred and tattooed man, I too probably would like stare at him for a second, despite the thing, but it's a whole ass, like, paragraph of his physical description. Whole ass paragraph of his physical description. And like it takes her this entire paragraph before she catches herself and is like, no, I can't think about him in a sexual manner, even though I really, really want to. And then to boot, to me, it feels like this whole paragraph describing this man's physical description feels like you guys remember in early 2000s and 2010s, like YA, where if there was a series, they would be describing like everything in detail. Like The Moral Instruments and Vampire Academy is particularly bad at this trope, where they talk about, like I said, in detail, the events that happened in the first book. And we talk about characters and their appearances in great detail, because, just to make sure you understand the previously on portion of the book, in case for some weird reason you pick up the second book and not the first book, which happened a lot more back in the day than it does now in a world of Goodreads. But it feels like that. Moving on to my next written point. So in this same page, at least on my Kindle, we meet this man, and she does mention, so where is it? That he has a hawkish nose. It's in the previous page that they mentioned. There's like he has an eye patch and a hawkish nose, and then you find out his name is Major Ferris, and then she proceeds to mention him as Hawknose for another couple pages. Moving on to the last description, because I need to eat because I'm getting hangry, as you can tell by like how much louder and annoyed I'm getting at these like minute descriptions. But like it's in this instance where I wish like an editor was like, what are you trying to say, homegirl? Because even I'm asking. Like, I had to ask Jake in line for food, and I was like, so what do you think about when you think someone, like, this is a description. Again, I'll throw this up here. An older woman, built like a battle axe, locks her gaze on Xaden, her blonde hair brushing just past her square alabaster chin. Now, there are a couple things in this scenario here. Let me just throw up a picture of a battle axe for you guys. Just throw that, right? You know, battle axes, top heavy, not a lot of leg. This is Jake's description. Top heavy, not a lot of leg days. Would you consider a top heavy person with not a lot of legs to be a balanced warrior? Like, ma'am, you missing leg day. How are you not falling in the battlefield? Like, and I'm assuming these are all dragon riders in a sense. So, like, those thighs aren't working trying to grip on the dragon's, like, freaking neck. Like, we're not, like, you can't crush a watermelon between your thighs. And then, so, blonde hair brushes past her chin. Now, there could have been several ways to just say she was white. The blonde hair probably is a big indicator. I don't see a lot of people who have darker hair, like my hair dark, that pulls warm and orange when you bleach it, to take time in a militaristic college, in a world where things are trying to kill you, to take time to bleach the warmth out of your hair. Safe to assume she's white, but like an alabaster chin, like, sentence wise, you know, it makes sense. You're getting the picture, she's white. But in my nitpicky brain here, which probably has some trauma from my creative writing classes where this stuff would get nitpicked, like, if you're gonna go to college for creative writing, look at me, thicker skin, because this stuff will get nitpicked, and then you will hate your life, because that's all you'll notice for the rest of your life. Thank you. But now I'm just picturing her chin to be like a literal alabaster clump right here. But I need to eat because I'm getting hangry, and just looking at the word battle axe, I just keep thinking like a really like a really like built woman up here, like all the muscles, the lats are popping out, the back is like defined as all hell when she just pulls back, and then itty bitty little toothpick legs. Alrighty, it is now Saturday. It's been a while since I've updated. It's been kind of a little hectic in life this week, and I've been in a lot of pain and discomfort all week, so I literally just get home and I like take off my shoes and take a shower and just lay down. Nothing crazy. That I am 16% of the way through the book, and Lisa had pointed this out to me that the book came out really quickly after the first book. So a lot of my issues are probably due to the fact that the editor had absolutely no time. That Rebecca Yarros had absolutely no time. Like, this is a factor, I'm not saying it's the actual reason, but had no freaking time to go ahead and do line-by-line edits, to double check for consistency with characters, with plot holes, with plots and world building. I'm gonna get some water because I have just woken up and I'm trying to figure out what to have for breakfast. It's 11, by the way. But there's just a lot of issues that I'm seeing within these first 16%, I think, and it's not great. And I can't even, at the current moment, it's not very salvageable. I'm 148 pages in, just for specifics, if anyone wants to know. My biggest thing right now is just character inconsistency, particularly with Violet as a character. Now, Violet's the main character. She's very much written as this incredibly book-smart kind of gal. She did have moments in the first book where I was like, questionable, but you could kind of like, you know, context clues and piece it together because she has been very sheltered. This one, she reads very much like a 17-year-old girl from Wattpad, and not in a good way. She's trying to like join the revolution, the rebellion, and wants more information and keeps bugging Xaden. Xaden is saying, I can't give you information because you cannot shield your mind yet. If Dane were to even like tap your little forehead he would find out everything, and that would risk everything and everyone. And she's like, but I want to help. And he's like, I can't tell you about the revolution, but I can tell you about me, anything about my life. And she's like, that is not good enough. And in my head, my brain of brains, obviously I am watching the situation from a bird's eye view, but even my dumb brain could be like, okay, so you can't tell me about the revolution or the rebellion or whatever, but you can tell me about your life. And his entire life is intrinsically linked to the fact, to this rebellion, this revolution. He knows everything and everywhere because of who his father was and who he is as a result. And in my brain, it just makes sense for the character to be like, okay, well, if that's all you can give me, like, even if she didn't realize that he's like subtly telling her this is my only way to tell you without putting you in direct line of fire, my brain would probably be like, okay, so then tell me more about you. Like, if this is what it takes for you to trust me with this information in the future, then tell me more about you. And then in other instances, basically for second year, instead of like the war games being their big like final, their final is that they have to learn how to survive with other dragons. It's a series of tests and exams and just ways to figure out, like, so if you were to become separated from your dragon and enemy lines, you need to learn how to survive, how to find resources, keep yourself safe, and more importantly, not give out secrets. He was one of the professors was very specific on the fact that one of the bigger exams will be that you have to be tortured and to be able to keep your secrets under wraps, and you are not allowed to break. With that accompanied, there is a new, like, I think a new teacher, like he's replacing Dane's father in this scenario because of Dane's father's poor judgment. And he has been known to kill people in the torture rooms. So with all of this in mind, to me, it would make sense in Violet's heart of hearts to take a step back and prioritize learning to shield herself properly, learning to build up that resolve so she doesn't put everyone and their mother in danger. But instead of doing these things, she starts to try to find more information on the rebellion, the revolution, the reasons for this, utilizing the archive that has to record who takes out what book. And somewhere in my brain, it just feels like she should know this information. She should be aware that, like, okay, yeah, you know, this is a military college, this is a library of sorts. Libraries have knowledge and have archives of who borrowed what book. Probably looking for this information is not the smartest thing you can do. So I'm just very confused as to why Violet keeps putting herself in these scenarios thinking that she is a cut above the rest, when she is very much clearly still at the bottom of everything. And it doesn't feel like she has grown very much as a character. It feels like she's devolved as a character. I can't even get into like the major world building or plot points first that I had planned for this video, because this was my biggest issue with the first book. Simply because Violet as a character and where her trajectory is so incredibly disheartening and not in the line that you would think or assume. It's not even that Rebecca Yarros is like subverting expectations. It feels like Violet has devolved so much as a character that she's again starting from like the beginning. She's starting from the starting point, which doesn't give me hope for her in the next, like, what is this supposed to be, like a 5-book series? Like right now, Xaden is becoming like my favorite character because he's the only one with the most sense. So like my second biggest thing is that I really don't understand why they went back to the college. It was very heavily implied that Brennan would be able to teach her how to shield herself and she'd be able to keep up with her training, and they've already been marked as dead. You know, no one's gonna go looking for them. So in my heart of hearts, I don't understand why they returned to the college when they could have been teaching Violet these things in the back end and trying to teach her more about the revolution and what's exactly going on instead of throwing her back into this college. It feels a little Harry Potter-y in the sense that we have to go back to the starting point every single book. And there are 5 books in this series. So to me, it doesn't feel like this plot portion has been clearly mapped out, but instead it's a way to elongate the books. Because if she returns back, then she has to find her way back out again. And it feels like she's brought back into the college only to elongate the series, because she'll have to find her way out. She'll have to start from the beginning again, because she has no idea who to trust, why she should trust them, and if it's to kind of build up a rebellion or like build up more followers, there probably would have been a better way to have done that without having her return back to a college to finish her studies. Like, I have a feeling the 3rd book is going to be them back in the college again to finish out her 3rd year. And the 4th book is going to be her probably becoming, like, an officer, right? That's who, yeah, an officer or a lieutenant or whatever after graduating. And then we'll get into the actual meat of, like, the plot and the revolution and all that stuff. That's just my theory, just by judging what's going on here. And it just doesn't feel, it feels juvenile in the process. It doesn't feel like an adult novel that there's a reason for things to be happening. It feels like they're returning the character back to a safe place because it's still it's meant for a younger audience. So I don't know. I am going to keep reading the book. The plan for today is to finish editing a video, read the book, and just generally stay off my feet. I have the apartment to myself for most of the day, so I think that's the plan for me, is to just like stay off my feet as best I can and let like the muscles rest and relax, and maybe like do some stretches or something to loosen up my hips and go from there. I'm tired. I don't want to go to a doctor. Okay. Oh, there's a cat. Hi. He wants attention. And then Nico's over here on the floor just chilling because he just got food. But it is now Monday. I'm about 25% of the way through the book. My loan is due in about 6.5, 7 days. I'm having I'm having a great time, truly. In terms of actual reading, like I said, I'm about 25% of the way through, so I'm a little past, I think, what I did on Sunday. I just, like, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the first Fourth Wing. Again, my biggest issues with it are world building. And I haven't gotten too much into the actual world building aspect of the book quite yet. I'm sure I will shortly, because we're getting to that point where I think world building is about to become a bigger portion of the story, because Violet is trying to learn about the wards and everything, and I'm trying to learn about the wards, but it's just not making sense. So hopefully maybe we'll see more of it. I can actually like talk about the meat of what this video is meant to be. But in terms of a writing standpoint, it's just not any better. It's worse than the first book. And I think part of that does have to do with the fact that it was very rushed. It was done within a year, and the edits are just atrocious. There weren't any edits at all. But to boot, I feel like the characters just also seem very out of touch with who they were from the first book and what I was anticipating from where the characters would go from the first to the second book. Violet feels like a completely different character. She feels like just vastly different from the first book. And I find that to just be a little unnerving at times, because you would expect her to have this huge change. Not even a huge change, but you would expect her to mature out of the situation. And, like, I understand being angry. You would expect her to mature a bit, to maybe, like, you know, push back a bit, but, like, still find a way to prove herself. But instead, in the ways that she's trying to prove herself are ways she's putting herself and other people in danger. And she doesn't seem to have the wherewithal to understand that or process that, even after Xaden's quite literally, like, shouting at her, like, you are putting yourself and other people in danger. But then she goes back to say that she doesn't want to put people in danger, she wants to keep them safe, but then does things that do the exact opposite. And I don't know, Violet in this book is just reading so out of character for me that it's just really ruining my ability to enjoy what little that I could enjoy from this book. It's just, I don't know, like, there are so many common sense moments that you just have me sitting there like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Can we, like, think for a second? Can we understand what we're doing for, like, half a second, maybe? but it doesn't seem to be the case, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm even going to finish this book at this point. I would like to be able to give like a thorough like analysis, but Violet as a character is just not it right now. Just not it. I'll update you guys when I get more, either 50%, or if anything else happens that I feel like I need to like break down and analyze and report on. But I'm gonna go take a shower and get some of this cat fur off my face. Okay, so the lighting's weird. Let me find different lighting. 1 second. Okay, that's a little better. Oh no. Better lighting, more balance. Come on. Okay. Let me adjust. Okay. So I am not 50% of the way through the book yet. I am 33% of the way. So I'm not even a full 10% away from what I told you guys when I last left y'all. But we're finally getting to some of the world building things. And I've sent audio messages to my friend Ermine. I've sent audio messages to my friend Andrea. And I just need to wrap my head around this just a third time. Because I say it out loud and I read the words. And it doesn't make sense no matter how I try to say it. So, Violet's visiting Xaden. Mira is now stationed with Xaden, and she almost tells them they're now like, we're not gonna fight tonight, and they're cuddling in bed. We learn that dragon eggs are made of metal. Dragon eggs are made of metal. Now, I'm not scientifically inclined in any way, shape, or form. I proudly announce to a lot of people when they start throwing numbers at my face that I am not a math Asian. I am a reading and writing Asian. I'm a rare Asian that's painfully creative, apparently. Because all my other Asian friends are math Asians. Last I checked, this is a chicken egg. This is a chicken egg. It's not hard boiled. I don't know if you can hear it moving, but it's a chicken egg, right? I'm having an existential crisis. I need to go lay down. Okay, I have spoken to my much more scientifically inclined friends. And they were able to rationalize it out a little bit for me more, implying that, like, you know, maybe like different colored dragons have different ways of getting out of the metal. If like the dragon nest is warm enough, since metal has different melting points, it could be, the casing could soften enough to like push and move around, kind of like how lizards are, I think is what they said. I'm okay now. Why would you drop that piece of lore and then just not expand on it? It was like, yeah, the dragon eggs are metal and they have magic. Okay, bye. Okay. I think I'm gonna stay in this position for a little bit. I'm just gonna read a little more and then work on some writing stuff. I'm still only at 33%. I'm gonna try to get to chapter 22. Try to get to chapter 22. It is now Wednesday. I am doing this update from a semi-horizontal position because it's been a long day. It hasn't been a bad day, so I haven't cried, which is great. It's always good to like come home from work and be like, it was a long day, and then not shed a tear. I am about 75% of the way through, which is surprising because I didn't think I'd make it this far so quickly. So as I said, I'm 75% of the way through, and I'm starting to see some of the world building aspects pop some holes in there. And again, more of the writing aspects. First off, I need to know where this place is timeline-wise, because Xaden just used the word endgame. And I don't think, it just took me out so much that I can picture it deep in my mind. And just like be in shock that he was like, we are endgame. And I'm like, what does that mean in this world? Like, you know, endgame is something we used, I think it got popularized around Tumblr times, so like 2012, 2014, when people were like shipping, and like they'd be like, no, this couple is endgame. We had it in yeah, because Tony Stark used it in Age of Ultron when he was like, this is why I created this murderous robot, because that up there is Endgame, and then we got Avengers Endgame. But I don't think this world has that concept in there. So let's just, you know, give editors a chance to actually do the job that they are being paid poorly for and edit the dang book. Because the line by line edits of this thing is just painfully rough. Back to the world building. So I have learned two major things in the process of reading 75% of this novel. And that is, one, when dragons go to sleep, like when they reach adolescence, they go to this thing called a dreamless sleep, where they're like, basically is the equivalent of like a coma for dragons, for them to grow all big and get all the bones and all the stuff happening. Now, because Andarna had issues staying asleep, she had to be taken and like flown places, and she had to be woken up in the process of this. She slept much later than dragons normally would, and her bones did not develop properly. Tarn basically says that because she was not able to get a consistently like straight amount of sleep, her bones aren't developed, so she can't fly. Now they're currently going through what is, I'm assuming, dragon physical therapy, and helping her like stretch out and practice those muscles and get her at least airborne. But we find out that she is not, she will never be able to bear a rider, which is like not the worst thing, because what's her name, Violet, does have Tarn. Unfortunately, it does pose a problem, because then what's kind of the point in having her in battle, I suppose? The biggest thing that I have with this point of world building is just that to me, dragons have been around for quite some time. Like obviously there's dragons who are over 600 years old. Tarn is an example of that, as he, I believe, has been part of the line for a hot minute. I think it's mentioned that the Ryerson line reared Tarn's like familial dragon line. So he's up there. He's not that old, but he's old. So my question is how has the entire Empyrean of dragons never heard of a dragon not fully completing a dreamless sleep continuously and having issues with their bones? I feel like this would have been something that happened, or something that would have happened, considering dragons, like, it's not, like, to me, it feels like dragons have at least, like, also I'm looking for, like, they have lived during several war times. The most recent rebellion is within at least the last century. So, I feel like it wouldn't be unheard of for dragons to have to move their hatchlings and wake up dragons who are currently going through the dreamless sleep. And then the question with that being is, how is she not going to be able to bear a rider? As she is assumedly a full-grown dragon, Violet's like, what, 105 pounds, 110 pounds, probably shouldn't do much to her ability to bear a rider. Like, she's not going to be able to, like, you know, do the same, like, maneuvers or anything, but assuming she should be able to at least, like, bear Violet from, like, point A to point B. But then the other part is in regards to the signets. So we learned very early on in the first book that after you bond with a dragon, the dragon then imbues you with your power, and you get what is called a signet, which is essentially like the equivalent of a vampiric special power. It is specific to you as a person. Each signet acts differently depending on the person. There is no signets, I guess, like, or like a fingerprint in some way, and regardless if they're similar, they won't be similar to the other person. So we learned that classified or super special signets are like super uber rare. Super uber. But I am here learning that there's like at least a good 10, like 5 or 6 people, maybe 10 people that have a super duper rare signet. So we have Melgren, who can see the outcome of any battle. We have Xaden. Now, Melgren's an adult, or I guess like higher up, but we'll talk about the main people within like their age group here. So we have Xaden, who is a shadow user. We have Dane, who can read minds from a touch. We have Violet, who is capable of wielding lightning or creating power and using it through the form of lightning. So those were the 3 main ones, and we're like, okay, this smaller group makes sense. But as it grows, we then learn that Rhiannon can like pull things or like grab things. Like, I'm picturing her power similar to that of like Kitty Pryde. Then we have Sawyer, who can mimic people's appearances, and we have Imogen, who can pull memories from people, and finally we have Bodhi. Bodhi, who I feel like the military or the college should have tried really freaking hard to convince to go to their side, even though he is fully in the rebellion side, and that is because he is able to cancel out any signet. But like at this point we have 6 people who have pretty strong signets. I don't remember what Liam's signet was or what Nadine's was. Okay, so no one really knows what Liam's signet is, which is a problem in and of itself. It seems like it's implied he has farsight, but then in the battle in the first book, he was seen wielding spears of ice. And his dragon's name was Day, which means ice in Gaelic. So again, it feels like in Twilight, where Edward tells Bella, like, oh yeah, like 1% of, I don't even remember the percentage, but like 1% of vampires have magical like ability outside of the basic vampiric abilities, and then cue the next like 4 books of you finding people with similar enhanced abilities. It's like, yeah, the 1% feels kind of a lot larger now. Or like in ACOTAR, where you'll learn that the mating bond is very, very rare between Fae, only for everyone and their mother to get a mate in the series. So it's instances like that where I feel like the world building is very much lacking. Oh, Kat. So we meet Kat, who was briefly mentioned, I think, in the beginning of the 2nd book. Kat, or Catriona, is Xaden's ex. We learn at some point that they are betrothed because Xaden is the Tyrish like royalty, essentially. Back in the day that he's now a duke, and he like holds a line to the Tyrish throne. But that's what we learn. And they were once betrothed, as Kat is I think she's like the niece or something of the Griffin Riders like leader, and she's been kind of a brat to I'm using that term lightly, to Violet, like very much like walking around half naked near Xaden's room, treating her just really poorly, and they finally get into it. And this is where like I lose interest in Kat as a person. And the only interest that she had to me was bringing up some angst, because I got me to feel something. She eventually announces that it's not because she's in love with Xaden, no. It's because she wants the power that Xaden can give her should they get married. Now, I love a strong queen kind of situation who wants like power over all else. But like when she said that, I kind of like lost gusto for her as a character. Not because it's like, oh yeah, so she only wants power, she doesn't want love, but her motivations don't really line up with her actions don't line up with her motivations, you know? Her motivations were screaming like, I am a jealous ex-girlfriend, blah blah blah. Even like her older sister was like, just get over it. You guys weren't even like together for a year. Everyone and their mother, they're like, just get over it. You weren't together for even a year. Her addition wasn't necessary to me. A lot of this stuff in this book was not necessary to me. Especially since it's like, where are we going to go with Kat now? Is she going to try to kill Violet to get that power? What exactly is going to happen here? And I just don't see a point in including her, especially since the only point of her inclusion was to create this new, stronger mental bond that occurred when they were having sex, which could have happened any other time. Oh, and then Jack Barlow, the dude who fell off the cliff, is back and alive, because they had been using Nolan to heal him, when I don't understand how that works because they never found a body. And then all of a sudden he pops up like completely healed, no scar tissue, nothing. And it's like, I don't know where they're going to go with him. I feel like he's going to be a big bad guy, but then I feel like he's going to turn good all of a sudden in the next book or something. And I've been talking for too long, but this book just feels like it's a weird amalgamation of random scenes that could have been decent, but instead feel disjointed. Like, we have, like, defeated a handful of, like, the bad guys already. I don't know who they're gonna fight now, because the ones they were fighting have been defeated. We got rid of the mommy issues, which I was like, I love me a good mommy issue situation, but they got rid of it. So it's just, I don't know. I will be back probably when I finish the book, and I'll have my full kind of like set thoughts with it when I get back. But I just need to lay down and like play a cozy game or something and just like decompress. Okay, dokie, artichoke. It is now Sunday, and I have since finished the book. I finished it Friday? Yeah, because my sister and I are watching Catching Fire. Before I give into my rating and my like review of the book, we'll just start off with the last couple things. So this could be like a user error, but I don't remember them mentioning, considering Violet's own reaction, I don't remember them mentioning the fact that if you bond with a dragon that your family has bonded with, say like your grandpa bonded with a dragon and then now you're bonding with a dragon, you have two options that'll happen to you. One is that you go completely crazy, or two, you develop a second signet. Now, Violet learns and finds out that Xaden has bonded with his dragon, whose name I don't remember how to pronounce, so I'm not going to try, through his grandfather. So she's like, well, Xaden seems pretty sane. So she's like, he has a second signet. He hasn't told me about the second signet. And she just kind of like goes down this whole like Twilight level of reveal, being like, you want to be in control of everything, you have such a good read of people, blah 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 blah, while Xaden is quite literally saying, please fucking stop talking. We're not warded, people can hear you. And that's when she finds out that he is a version of intrinsic, which is like the mind readers, who are completely, highly, very illegal in this world. He is the kind where you can read your intentions, and she starts to feel a type of way. She's like, you can read my intentions, does that mean that anything that we've talked about, anything that we've like discussed has ever been true? Are you lying to me? Have you just manipulated me this entire time? And Xaden's like, no, that's not it. And he's just, poor dude is trying his absolute hardest to like talk some sense into this girl, and she's just not understanding. She's like, I am the last person to know everything, and it's not fair. Even though, homegirl, you've known him for a total of 6 months to a year, like, I still don't know everything about everyone that I've known, and I've known some of these people like for like years. Like, you don't, like, it's just a thing. Like, you learn more about the lore of the people you've been with the more you've been with them. And he's like, no one else knows but you, because I could get killed, repeat, killed for this. And she goes, oh, hee, I know something that no one else does about you for once, hee. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. The writing in the entire scene regarding his like reveal of his second signet was weird. It read very much like Twilight, like, I know what you are, say it, you're cold, you don't go out in the sunlight, how old are you? What do you think, 17? How long have you been? It was like that, only except with Edward like allowing her to figure out what was going on. Xaden literally was like, please fucking stop, you could get me killed. And then Violet's mom dies. She like sacrifices herself to bring the wards back up by allowing Sloane to siphon her power and her life and allowing that to power the wards. I have mixed feelings on this. As y'all know, I love me a good mommy issue kind of novel. I think that having that like mother-daughter mommy issue struggle is like very, very paramount to my reading experience. It is one of the few things that I enjoyed in the first book, and I didn't like how in this book it was almost like erased. It was like, oh yeah, well, she could be a good person because she just didn't know. But then you find out that she did know about things, and then that she's not a good person anymore, and that all she wanted to do was protect her children, and blah, 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 blah. And it was just like a whole I feel like her mother's sacrifice leading up to her, like the lead up to her sacrifice, there wasn't enough build up. I didn't feel like there was like, she didn't do enough to repair her relationship with her siblings for me as the, or her with her to repair the relationship with her children, for me as the reader to feel like her sacrifice was worth it or emotional at all. Like, you have Mira and Violet and Brennan kind of like losing their shit, but I'm sitting here like, okay, she sacrificed herself, but I did, so what, we didn't like her in the first place. So I'm just sitting here trying to like figure out really like where the emotional pull is here, because she didn't redeem herself in my eyes as a reader well enough. Like, she did a couple things here and there in the second book that is like, okay, yeah, so you're not a terrible mother, but like, where were the talks? Where were the discussions for your children to feel like they want to rebuild a relationship with you only for you to lose it? I don't know. Like, even like Feyre's like father not doing much throughout the first trilogy, and then coming in with the boats named Feyre, Elaine, and Nesta, and then dying, getting stabbed by the king, was more impactful to me than this, because it felt like there was more of an emotional release there for those like relationships, but here it was just gone. And then we end the book with her finding out that Xaden is turning into Venom, much like Jack Barlow was when he was revived. So now they're on the hunt to find a cure, so that way he doesn't become Venom and like try to kill everyone. I mean, I get it. It's a shock value kind of ending. It happens a lot in second books where you just kind of get tossed into it. I didn't have much of a, like, I just feel bad for Xaden, if I'm going to be quite frank with y'all. Like, Xaden probably was like one of my favorite characters in the second book, just because he had the most sense, and I feel like he was going through a lot with trying to tell Violet like, hey, please think with some common sense, and Violet, being the 20-something-year-old she is, decided to think with a 16-year-old lizard brain in the back of her head, said, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm intrigued to see how this goes, but overall I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. I think there were some redeeming qualities. I really enjoyed Violet and her relationship with her dragons. Again, it's like Sunday morning, I haven't eaten yet, so I don't remember how to pronounce the names and I don't want to butcher them. So I'm just going to refer to everyone as the dragons. But her relationship with Violet and her dragons was really nice. I liked seeing Violet's relationship with her squad and how like I cried. Like, I like almost lost my shit when Sawyer got his freaking like leg bit off, and we were just sitting here like, is he gonna die? And then Violet's like getting him to wake up, being like, hey, remember we promised the 4 of us would make it to graduation, and Sawyer's like, I remember, like losing all the blood in his leg. I did enjoy Xaden as a character. To me is just very compelling. I think he's a very fun character, and to learn more about his like lore as like the king of the Tirish, the child of the rebellion, the things he's had to do to protect the children of the rebelled kids within the quadrant was very interesting to me. Overall, like, again, it's like this book is like watching a train wreck happen in slow motion. I want to look away. I had so many thoughts of like DNFing the book, especially when we all have reached this, when I reached the scene about the metal dragon eggs, that I like had a full-on like existential crisis about and a breakdown, and had to have my more intelligent friends try to give me ideas as to how it could work out, where I just wanted to DNF it, but I feel like I couldn't. I think the book definitely has like some very like addictive like aspects to it, in the sense that it reminds me very much of like my fanfic writing days, where like no one really planned out what was going to happen in their fan fictions, and that was okay. Like, I didn't start planning out my books until like what I like to write anyway, until much later, and I can tell you now that the fanfic that I wrote, definitely their authors did not plan out what was going to happen step by step in their own books, and that's how it reads. So it's a very addictive quality because it's very reminiscent of those times. Nothing was planned out, and that was okay, and we just all accepted when stuff just got randomly retconned, or stuff just randomly popped up lore-wise here and there with no foreshadowing or no like idea of what was going to happen, and we were all okay with that. But the problem is that this book is not fan fiction. It is a published level novel with a team of people working behind it. And I say this because the team, to my knowledge, because judging by how close these publication dates are, with each other. The team was not given enough time to do the proper line edits, to start asking Rebecca Yarros, like, hey, what's the end goal here? This character doesn't seem like they'd be acting in this sort of way. This was not specified or expunged upon. You're getting questions for this. The team in of itself, the team of editors, the team of reviewers, the team of readers, were not given enough time in my eyes. I don't even know what happened in the back, but just judging by how close the first and the second book were, they didn't seem to have been given enough time to develop, to actually make this book better than a first draft or a fanfic draft where nothing's planned out, and that's okay. This is a published level novel, not something you read on Wattpad or AO3 where you're fully aware that there's going to be some things that probably don't line up. It definitely does feel like I think Rebecca Yarros could benefit with sitting down with what she has written so far, quite literally reading her books, and taking notes of like what the world building is, what are the give and takes with the magic system, what are the specificities of the dragons, the Empyrean. And just because I feel like with that knowledge that she's making, even if we don't get every specific detail, like what temperature does a dragon's breath have to be to spew fire, you know, it would feel more rounded, because she has done the job to round everything out. And it's just, to me, it just feels like she's going through things step by step and getting, like, she doesn't know exactly where the story is going to go. She doesn't know where the world building is going to go, and she just kind of throws things in for funsies and because it looks good. And that, I think, was a really big detriment to the second book. The few redeeming qualities that I did have, like I said, are primarily the relationships that we see with Violet and her people, and Violet and her dragons, and like the kind of forward motion of the plot. There's always like something happening, and it's never like a truly dull moment, because I feel like if it's a slow pause, we get to see Violet and Xaden's relationship. If it's a faster pause, or Violet and her relationship with her other like squad mates, if it's a faster moment, then we get to see more of like the thoughts, the action, which does break it up. But it was just weird. The pacing of this book was very weird, from going back to school. Oh yeah, it just feels like Rebecca Yarros doesn't really like have a plan in mind. And it's obvious, because like it's like she's kind of throwing things in as it goes along, and it's very obvious when lore starts to pop up in random places, and when it feels like plot lines are getting tossed in there, and I don't know where it could go or how it could be fixed. But I am a firm believer in the concept of Chekhov's gun, sorry, in terms of writing. I think that when you're building a story and building like a world, that the concept of Chekhov's gun has to be in there somewhere. And not because it makes the writing, like it elevates the writing or it's necessary, but I think the concept of foreshadowing always comes about. We know that venin are made, but we don't know the capacity or if they can be healed. And the third book's coming out assumedly because we are going to be seeing Xaden, like, this is just my theory, Xaden is going to slowly become a venin throughout the book. We're going to try to hide it, and it's going to come out toward the end as Xaden reaches the head, and they're going to try to find a cure. But nothing in the previous two books has been hinted at a possible cure for venin. They've just been killing them left and right. I don't understand how they're gonna heal it, because there's never been a hint to it. So they're gonna do very much what they did in the second book, where everything's gonna be about finding the reason for the wards. Only now is reason for the venin, what happened, why the venin are this way, and it's gonna be all of the things. But none of this was previously hinted at, and again, it just feels like Rebecca Yarros is just putting things together as it goes along. And it's either, to me, it feels like a detriment. To me, it feels like a detriment to the story. Because I enjoyed the first book. I gave the first book a 4 out of 5 stars. My biggest issue with it was the world building. And I wanted to see what was going to come of that. And the second book has just been a massive disappointment. There is no world building. Rebecca does not have a plan. The plan is not there. And if she did have a plan, it's just big points that she has to hit in between. I don't know if I'll pick up the third book after this. I think a lot of there has to be a lot of interest for me to pick up the third book, because I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know if I even want to see where it's gonna go. I think that there is a good basis in this series. There's good points to jump off of and develop, and in every turn and every corner of the second book, Rebecca has chosen to do the exact opposite of what a good decision would be, of what a good development would be. So I just don't see a point reading the series and continuing on. I don't think it's for me. I think there are a bunch of other dragon books out there that are probably a lot more developed and have a lot more to go off and build off of and are a lot more well thought out than this book, but this is not it, and I have no further interest in moving forward and reading said book series. But that is it for my vlog of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros.
Mid.
What he said. If you guys want me to do more vlogs on series or reviews on series, if you guys want me to do like an in-depth review of this book, just let me know in the comments down below and I'll do that. But until next time, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Bye.